Let's do it. Let's go. They say it pays the cost to be the boss. Time to show them who's in charge.
Praise the Lord for my Zen crash with his beat. I thank the Lord for my that I smash every week. I put it all in the guts and now go fast asleep. Since she been on me for months and left my message on scene.
I put it to you like this. You dust me in this, I'll let you have that bitch.
Open that mosh pit up.
Let's go.
Alright, hello everyone, welcome back. It's that time of the week. It is time for some more CTC. Today we arrive at Abu Dhabi for round number 6, the halfway point of the season and the last round before the first break week of the season. I am your race commentator, More Games, and looking forward to bringing you some more action from the competitive team championship. As you can see on your screens, here are the championship standings after the 5th round of the season in Saudi Arabia. Talent Factory continue to lead the championship and still by quite some margin, 82 points to their name, with Outplayed Racing just 31 points behind, I should say, in comfortably in P2, and then quite the battle for P3. If you remember last time out, it was QRT who took the victory under the floodlights of Saudi Arabia, and they are the 4th team ever to win in the history of the competition. They put themselves among the likes of Talent Factory, Outplayed Racing, and Never Last Racing. So those are the only 4 teams to ever win this competition, and because of that win, they got P1 and P5 and scored the most points out of anyone in that particular round. That puts them P5 in the standings and just 2 points away from NLR. And NLR, they are quite a bit behind FVR in the standings as of right now, and that is because they scored 0 points last time out, with Rudy Hullet getting a DNF and Axelinho with a late race mistake falling all the way down to P17. FVR were able to capitalize off of that because they scored themselves a decent 10 points, which extended their lead over NLR. But QRT is only 2 points behind now. Let's hope they can continue battling. But yeah, last week was, if you missed it, it was very, very interesting. The results really speak for themselves because ETA Esports were the team to score the 2nd most amount of points and boost themselves up to P7. And Team Mentalism scored the 3rd most amount of points, boosting them up to P6 in the standings. But as for Talent Factory and Outplayed Racing, Talent Factory scoring just 2 points with a P10 and P11 finish. Meanwhile, Outplayed Racing just about besting them, but only by 1 point. They got a P8 finish, which gained them 1 point on our current championship leaders, which really isn't much, but something at least. And there's still plenty of time left in the season. 7 rounds to go, including this one. So hopefully Outplayed Racing can do a little better this weekend and really capitalize off of Talent Factory. And yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. If you remember last time out, Talent Factory actually finished a bit further up than P10. I can't remember exactly what driver it was, but one of the Talent Factory guys, they finished up near the podium positions. I think it was the top 5, but after some post-race penalties, they were dropped down to the top 10. But those are your championship standings, and now let's look at the driver lineups for the teams tonight. As you can see, all the drivers are in the lobby, so we'll be starting very shortly. But for VIR, we have Skyline and Dark in the Mercedes car. NLR bringing Rudy Hullet once again. Got pole position in Austria. I'll keep bringing it up because everyone seems to be a Rudy Hullet fan. And NLR Lewis will be making his debut here in CTC. So interesting to see from NLR making a driver debut this late in the season. But obviously they think maybe Axelinho wasn't particularly strong at this circuit. They just want to get someone else in, so Lewis will be driving in the Red Bull 4 tonight. Talent Factory bring Kean, and I think this might be Jerry Van Bussel's first round in the tournament. He's been putting on some stellar performances in PSGL's PlayStation Formula 2. Let's hope he can do decently tonight in the Ferrari. For FVR, we have Stefano and Justin, once again, a classic lineup for the McLaren team. For QRT's main team, it's going to be Gelram and Twist. And Twist, obviously, I think he was the man who won last night. It's very bad that I don't remember this, but it was Twist and one other driver who I just can't remember for the life of me. But hopefully he can put on another good performance, and Gelram will be driving for them today. OP Benza and OP Tim in the AlphaTauri. For QRT's Academy, it will be Ryan and Sanchowitz, who I think might be making his debut as well. I don't remember seeing him this season. G-League Thibaut and Carhams will be racing in the Williams tonight, with ET8 bringing Matteo and another debut driver. It's going to be Slash for ET8 in the Haas car. They did quite well last time out in Saudi Arabia. Let's see if they can carry the momentum into this round now. And then for Team Mentalism, once again, it's Agent and a new driver. Once again, another debut driver. So plenty of new faces for tonight's Grand Prix at Abu Dhabi. For Team Mentalism, it's Edrex in the Alfa Romeo. So those are your drivers for tonight's race, and hopefully they can put on a show as they did last week and the week before. We've been seeing so much action lately in CTC. Every round has produced excitement and really edge your seat stuff. And hopefully it can happen again here in Abu Dhabi, a track that usually, after the changes that have been made to the layout for the new Formula 1 22 game, produce some really great racing action with some long DRS zones and some more high-speed turns. We see a lot more overtaking in this new generation of cars. But the drivers are now all readied up and preparing themselves for the qualifying session. And just before we jump in, a quick word from our sponsors. So here we are now at the circuit for the qualifying session, and the drivers are now in the pit lane. They'll be putting on their setups and their soft compound of tyres before they begin their first lap times of the session. And coming into this round, we'll have to see who might be on pole position. If I had to make a prediction for tonight's race, I think it's very tricky. There's so many talented drivers on the grid tonight, but if I had to pick just one driver for that pole position spot, I think I'm going to have to give it to Talent Factory Kean. He's a great driver with amazing pace, lacks a little bit of consistency every now and again, as we saw in Saudi Arabia, but hopefully he can bring it all together tonight and get a good lap time in and secure pole position for today's Grand Prix. And he will be the first man out on track. So we'll have to see how he does in the Ferrari, getting out nice and early so he can be the pace setter of the grid for tonight. But yeah, Talent Factory, they obviously didn't have a very good weekend at all last week, with both drivers finishing outside of the top the top 9, let alone the top 5. As we usually see Talent Factory, they've been on the podium in every single round apart from Saudi Arabia, so that was a first for them. But coming into this round, I think they'll be looking to bounce back a little. They've got some new blood into this competition of the likes of Jerry Van Bussel, who can hopefully put on a good performance in his first performance in CTC. But yeah, they really need to get a better one tonight. OP, it was the same case for them last week. They really did quite poorly when their rivals, Talent Factory, were also doing poorly. So It seems they were both in the same boat. Hopefully we see them back at the front of the grid for tonight, though, as OP Benz, I think he might actually be making his debut. I'm not 100% sure on that, because I have seen Benza in other competition. I'm not sure if it was CTC or not, but nevertheless, he obviously hasn't raced much in CTC, so we'll have to see how he does in OP. And OP Tim, he's not done great so far in this competition. Most of his races he's been extremely inconsistent. The performances in Australia comes to mind. He just lacks that little bit of consistency. There's always one point in the race where he just makes a big mistake and it ends up costing him quite a bit. Hopefully though, he's got a grip on that and can do a lot better at this Abu Dhabi circuit. But we're riding on board with Talent Factory Kian, who's currently coming out of turn number 5 now and onto this very long DRS straight, where I'm sure we'll be seeing plenty of moves in the Grand Prix itself, as he's barreling down now to this next chicane. He's going to be braking nice and late, trying to get that late apex, which is exactly what he does, just about tapping the apex on the inside of turn number 6 there. And once again, it's another DRS straight, so 2 DRS straights in a row should mean that we get some pretty decent overtaking opportunities into both turns of turn 9 and turn 6. And you can see really carrying the speed quite nicely through there, not using a lot of the curb on the exit, as it can unsettle the car quite badly. And now into the final sector of the lap time, really easy to lose the rear end through this double left-hander, but Kian carrying the momentum perfectly there and gets a very good exit. He's only got one more braking zone to go, and let's see what will his banker time and his first banker time of the session be. As you can see, snap of oversteer on the exit. He comes across the line to say a 1 minute 22.7. That's a good lap time there from Talent Factory Kian to go to provisional pole position, and it puts him 2 tenths ahead of OP Tim, who sets a 22.9 as his banker time. Let's see what other drivers are currently out on lap times. Everyone's favourite, it seems, NLR Rudy Hullett is coming through the final sector of the lap time, and now the final turn of the lap. Let's see where Rudy Hullett can put himself with this first lap. It's a 23 flat, which puts him just behind the likes of Talent Factory and OP, and just ahead of his teammate NLR Lewis, who puts in a very good lap for his first lap ever in CTC. He finds himself 3 1,000ths behind his teammate. Jerry Van Bussel has gone up into the top 2, so currently it's a Talent Factory front row lockout with Jerry Van Bussel 2 tenths behind his teammate. Let's try to find someone else on a lap time. QRT Gelram is now finishing off his first sector of the lap time. Obviously Gelram wasn't here for Saudi Arabia, but he knows that his team's in good spirits since their win last time out, and hopefully he can do decently and really keep up with the likes of QRT Twist, as Joe Ram now comes into turn number 6. You can see drivers not using the curb on the entry there, so you can lock the tires, but even without using the curb, QRT Joe Ram, that's a big lockup into turn number 6, which finds himself losing quite a bit of time on entry and exit. He is now coming up to turn number 9 here. You really need to carry the speed. You can see going for a slingshot line, tight apex and tight entry, and also tight exit to try and carry the speed through there. Now into the final turns of the lap, the double left hand. You can see very early apex there for QRT Gelram, but he's really taken quite a nice line there through that double left. And now he's only got one more braking zone to go, using the full width of the track on entry, dipping his car into the apex there, and across the line sets a 23.3, which currently puts him P11 in the session. A lot more lap times have come through though, and the ETA driver of Slash has shot himself up to a 1 minute 22.8, which puts him just behind Talent Factory Kian by a tenth of a second. That's a great lap time from the Haas driver. Really good to see ETA are carrying the momentum that they had back in Saudi Arabia. FVR Stefano into the top 7, but behind both of the NLR drivers, which is not where you want to be if you are an FVR man. Erdex, or Edrex, I should say, is currently P8 ahead of QRT Twist on a 23 flat. And you can see he's not the only driver, because there is currently 5 drivers on a 23 flat, I should say. 1 minute 23 flat. So the drivers are really, really close. You can see from P3 down to P9 separated by just over a tenth of a second. That's 7 drivers separated by just over a tenth of a second. So we're used to seeing fine margins, but that's taking it to a whole new level now, as the drivers make their way back to the pit lane after their first lap times of the session. Although Talent Factory Keane, once again, he's going out very early. He did this for his first lap time, and he's doing it for his second one, so not favoring the track position over the track evolution, so he doesn't have any traffic to get into the way of him. Which obviously worked out for his first banker time of a 22.7. But so far, this qualifying session shaping up quite interestingly. A couple of surprises in the grid. We have obviously Sanchowitz and Agent Tajan have not set lap times yet. They're the only 2 drivers yet to set lap times. Obviously, they must have made a mistake on their laps, invalidated lap times, which could quite possibly be the reason why they don't have laps onto the board. The ET8 driver of Matteo down in P16. He'll be looking to really push on his next lap time to get a little bit closer to his teammate. We see the likes of FVR Justin, who's down in P12, really needs to boost himself up now if he wants to continue the battle between FVR and NLR. And then we have OP Benza, who's currently down in P10. So he's obviously struggled quite a bit on that original banker time. And yeah, he's currently 5 tenths off of Talent Factory Keane's 22.7, and as Keane shapes up for another lap time, he's 5/100ths of a second down coming out of the first sector of the lap time, which does only consist of 1 braking zone, so hopefully it was just 1 mistake through that part of the lap. He's now coming into the middle sector. This is where you gain the most time. It's the longest out of all the sectors, if I'm not mistaken, into turn number 6, hitting quite a late apex there to set himself up nicely. For turn number 7 and on to this DRS straight, where you really need a good exit as you head into turn number 8, where it's now time to carry the momentum. How much speed can he take through here? Out of the second sector, he is actually 68/1000ths down on his lap time. So is he actually going to abandon this lap, because he's not improving at all out there as he's down through the first 2 sectors? Maybe it's the final sector where all the time is to be found. But as you can see, coming through the double left-hander, he goes wide on the first exit, and that has invalidated his time. He's going to pull his Ferrari back into the pit lane. So Keane struggling to improve out there. That could possibly be a cause for concern, as he's only got Slash behind him by just a tenth of a second. So Slash is very much got a chance to compete for pole position. Meanwhile, his teammate Talent Factory Jerry Van Bussel is ending off his second lap time of the session. He is improving, and through the final turn of the lap time, you can see getting on the power quite early, pushing the limits, and he improves by 2.5 tenths of a second, which puts him to a 22.7, swiftly followed by another 22.7 from OP, this time in the form of OP Tim, going up to the top 3 now. Good lap time from him. NLR Rudy Hullett is the next set of lap time. A good exit out of that final turn. He sets a 22.9, improving by a tenth of a second. Meanwhile, his teammate struggling a little bit more because he is invalidated on this lap time. So he's going to have to pull it back into the pit lane. Slash, though, we're going to ride on board to see what the ET8 driver can do, as he's doing quite nicely for himself so far. He's actually using the entry curb into that turn number 6. That's something that we haven't seen the 2 Talent Factory drivers use. We'll have to see if it gains some time, and we're about to find out, because he is now coming out of turn number 7. His teammate not giving him a slipstream there, maybe just poorly coordinated. He now gets 21,000ths up on his time out of the middle sector, so small steps for Slash, but he's now got a full sector to find a tenth or 2, as let's see how well can he take this, because he's been doing so pretty well in the first 2 sectors. Through the double left, you can see getting as close as you like to the track limits and really carrying good speed through there. This could be quite the lap time from Slash. It's an early apex into the final turn. Is that going to work out from across the line to 22.6 for M Slash, who goes to the top of the timing sheets? And yeah, wow, what a lap time. Absolutely speechless after that. And the ET8 driver, but he then gets beaten by FVR Stefano into P1. It's a 22.5 for FVR. Wow, this is very exciting and something we definitely didn't expect coming into this round. As of right now, it's FVR and ETA on the front row of the grid. So Talent Factory and OP are really being challenged now to set much faster lap times. Talent Factory Keen is currently 2/10 off of that provisional pole time that has just been set by FVR Stefano, but that is extremely impressive stuff from Stefano and Slash. And once again, we're seeing Talent Factory Kian on a different running plan. He's going for a lap time with 6.5 minutes to go. I don't know if he'll be able to get another one in after this one, so maybe he won't be getting a lap time in when the track evolution is at its best. Maybe he's trying to squeeze 4 lap times into the 18 minutes that he's been giving to qualify. But let's see what he does now on his 3rd lap time of the session, as we see OP Benza sets a faster lap time. He goes just behind his teammate by 1/10 of a second. It's a 22.8 for the AlphaTauri driver. Talent Factory Kian, he improves out of the first sector of the lap time, and he needs to continue to improve if he wants to compete with FVR Stefano, who has been showing great pace in this competition. We saw it, I think, in Baku was one of the rounds where we saw him go quite quickly, and a few other rounds. I can't remember exactly what rounds, but I do know that FVR Stefano has been quite quick so far in this competition. We've seen him on the podium once or twice. Talent Factory Key now out of the middle sector, setting another purple sector, and now he's just got one more to go. 2/10 is how much he needs to improve if he wants to get onto the level of FVR Stefano. Into this double left-hander now. It's an early apex for the Talent Factory driver, and he keeps it within the track limits this time. Not as nice a line as we saw Slash take through there, but still very decent for Kian. And now the final turn, a very, very early apex there for Kian. Is he going to improve enough? Yes, he is. He goes to provisional pole position with a 22.5, and he goes out ahead of Stefano, just 24 1,000ths of a second ahead of the McLaren driver. So it's starting to get extremely close at the top of the timing sheets now, with Jerry Van Bussel beginning his 3rd lap time. This will be his final lap time of the session. He does not have enough time to finish this lap and come back to the pit lane out of turn number 1. It's a bit squirmish on the back end there, as he just about keeps it within the track limits coming out of turn number 3 and 4. Is he improving after that first sector? Yes, he is. He's actually 0.5 up on his time into turn number 5 now, and he is going to be getting a slipstream from his teammate. Great coordination here from Talent Factory, which is exactly what you would expect from the leading team in the championship. Jerry Van Bussel gaining plenty of time from his teammates' contribution there. Jerry Van Bussel, he does actually take the same line as Slash there, as he takes a lot of entry curb, trying to get the best run through turn 6 and 7. We could see a big improvement now out of this second sector. Is Jerry Van Bussel improving? He is, but just marginally. It's only 0.5, so he's just matched his previous middle sector time from his 22.7, as he was 0.5 up out of the first sector. Now the final sector, you can see it's extremely wide into that right-hander, and he's abandoned his lap time, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, he's not carrying that much speed through that double left, so will he be going for one more lap time? If he does, he will be quite compromised because he doesn't have a lot of ERS. No, he comes back into the pit lane, and he will be setting one final lap time. So Talent Factory Kian and Jerry Van Bussel using 4 sets of soft compound tires in this qualifying session. We'll have to see if that is the best strategy, because obviously they only have 1 set of mediums and 1 set of hards for the Grand Prix now. Probably they must not be expecting a safety car at this round. Maybe they've driven a lot here and not seen many, but I think there's every chance of a safety car no matter what track we're at. So Kian and Jerry Van Bussel going for quite a risky strategy, and really favouring the qualifying over the Grand Prix itself, which is interesting to see, because you assume as a top team they'd be really favouring the race, because in the past they've been quite confident that they can get their drivers at least into the top 5 in the qualifying sessions. So yeah, it's a very interesting strategy that Talent Factory has taken now. And someone mentioning in the chat there that Jerry Van Bussel has been showing some great promise in PSGL's PlayStation Formula 2, which is definitely true. I've had the pleasure of commentating over that division. I've seen some great performances from Jerry Van Bussel, including his dominant win at Austria. We'll have to see if he can have similar pace like that today. But as of right now, he's currently P4 and 2/10 off of his teammate. We're now riding on board with NLR Lewis. He's going out a bit earlier than the rest of the drivers, but the NLR driver hoping to get a better lap time onto the board. His best lap is currently a 23 flat, which was his banker time that he set at the very start of the session. He needs to improve by at least 1/10 if he wants to get to his teammate, but you can see coming through turn number 3, they're getting up on the curb, and surprisingly, he's actually lost the car because of that. So we've seen the likes of Talent Factory Keane take all the curb he likes through that third turn, but for some reason, NLR Lewis's car just not agreeing with it, maybe running lower ride height than Talent Factory Keane, but nevertheless, that's quite unlucky actually from Lewis. He will be able to get one more lap time in, but his tires will be slightly worn now. We're now seeing Slash come on to his final lap time, and one thing I've actually noticed, I think he might be racing on a controller. As you can see, turning into this turn, he is quite smooth, but I'm not too sure. I think Slash might actually be on a controller, and if he is, that only makes this so much more impressive. But as you can see, coming through turn 3, that wasn't too smooth, as he's now a 10th down on his time, and into turn number 5, quite a lockup going into there, not being able to carry much speed. Thankfully, he's kept his lap time valid though, so he will be able to continue on with this lap, but losing a 10th out of that first sector, that is going to cost him by quite a bit, and that wasn't the greatest exit out of turn number 5 into number 6. Now he's gone deep once again, so Slash, I don't think he'll be improving on his 22.6. We'll have to see though, out of this middle sector, what is his time going to be as he comes down this DRS straight, preparing for turn number 9. He is down by 77 1,000ths of a second, so I don't think Slash will actually be improving. Talent Factory Keane is starting his final lap time though. Let's see, the man I predicted for pole position, can he now secure this pole position? He's got to worry about the likes of FVR Stefano, who's on his lap time. He's currently coming through turn 6 as he hits a beautiful apex coming through turn 6 and 7 there. That was a really nice line from the McLaren driver, and I think he will be seeing himself improve coming out of the middle sector. Let's see, as he heads into turn number 9, he is improving by half a tenth. That would be enough to displace Talent Factory Keane at this stage of the session. Can he now keep it up? He's got one more sector to go. If he wants to get this pole position, he's going to have to find quite a few tenths now in these final few turns. Through the double left-hander, once again an early apex, carrying the momentum, not using the full width of the track that time, so not the smoothest line for FVR Stefano. He's got one more turn to go. Turns in very early for this final turn out of the final corner. It's a 1 minute 22.5. He's beating Keane by just a couple of 1,000ths of a second. 7 1,000ths of a second to be exact. Talent Factory Keane, he's just got to make the most minor of improvements to get this pole position. As we saw an Aston Martin spin there through the double left. Talent Factory Keane, he's got one more turn to go. Can he get this pole position out of the final turn? Sliding through that turn, and it's a 122.5. He improves by 33 1,000ths of a second, and that is just about enough to beat FVR Stefano in the battle for pole position. Talent Factory Keane will be lining up on the front row of the grid and at the very front on pole position, and he beats FVR Stefano by just a 26 1,000ths of a second. Nothing separating the top two, and a brilliant performance from the FVR driver. It's great to see him up there in the front row of the grid and in the mix with the best drivers in this competition. ET8 take P3 in the form of Slash, who gets a 22.6. That's amazing to see from the ET8 team. Currently P7 in the standings, looking to make it P6, possibly even P5 if they can get a good result out of this. Jerry Van Bussel, a little bit lower down than he maybe would have liked. He was able to improve upon his time in the end, but not by enough. It's a 22.687, which puts him just 2 100ths behind the ET8 driver of Slash. But what a qualifying session. It's so close between the drivers at the front of the field, and those were the ones we were focusing on. I didn't actually focus too much on the midfield, so I'm sorry about that, but we'll now get to look at it as we see OP Tim gets himself into the top 5. Not the best, but definitely not the worst for the OP driver. QRT Twist into the top 6, as he was in last week's Grand Prix. OP Ben's a little bit further down than he would have liked to have been. It's P7 for the AlphaTauri driver. Edrex in P8, Rudy Hullet in P9, Gelram in P10, Agent in P11, Skyline in P12, Jibo and Lewis on the 7th row of the grid, with Dark and Justin on the 8th, Carhams and Brian on the 9th, and on the back row of the grid, it's Matteo and Sanchowitz. And that's a very, very close qualifying session. We're now getting ready for the Grand Prix, and just before we do, a quick word from our sponsors. So here we are now at the circuit. It's evening time here in Abu Dhabi, and the drivers are on the grid. They're finalizing their setups and their strategies and preparing for what hopes to be an exciting Grand Prix under the floodlights of the United Arab Emirates, I should say. But it's Talent Factory Kian who is on pole position, and he will be leading us away for this race start. But if qualifying is anything to go off of, hopefully Stefano will be able to keep him honest in the opening few laps. Only time will tell, as we now see we have 3, 4, 5 red lights. They are gone, and we are away. What kind of start is it for a pole man of Talent Factory Kian up against FVR Stefano? It's a brilliant one as they head down into turn number 1. Stefano having to defend from Slash in the background there. Jerry Van Bussel going side by side with OP Tim as they go up the hill into turn number 3. He just about beats OP Tim, as we're now seeing QRT Twist look to the outside line. That's G Lee Carhams, who's retired from the session. QRT Twist sends it into turn number 5 on the inside line of OP Tim, but the safety car has now been released and the race will be neutralized, and that really didn't last too long at all. But a DNF for G Lee Carhams on the exit of turn number 2, blocking the pit lane exit, was cause for a safety car there. So that only about 5 turns of racing before the first safety car was brought out. So Talent Factory Kian and Jerry Van Bussel weren't banking on a safety car. Well, they've gotten exactly what they did not want. But let's look at the position swaps here. You can see not many in the top 12. The only 2 switching positions were QRT Twist and OP Tim. And that is Twist making his move down the inside into turn number 5. He's now into the top 5. In the Grand Prix. He's been showing great potential recently, and it looks like he'll be doing it again here in Abu Dhabi. You can see most drivers maintaining their positions. NLR Lewis gaining 1 position off of that race start on G League Debo. FVR Justin managed to get in a move on VIR Dark. QRT Ryan and Matteo and Sanchowitz not gaining any positions, well, apart from the position they gained from G League Carhams. So those are your race start, your race positions as of right now. But obviously we didn't get to see too much racing action before the race was neutralized. But one thing we will see now is drivers coming into the pit lane. FVR Justin, he realizes his teammates up there in P2 in the battle for the win in this Grand Prix. FVR Justin, he needs to get himself up there, because FVR, who are currently battling with NLR currently P9 and P13. So as of right now, it looks like FVR will be extending their lead over the Red Bull team. So that's exactly what FVR want to see. And with FVR Justin, he's going for a bit of a riskier strategy here, and well, not really, actually. He's going for a 2-stop strategy. He comes in from the hards to the mediums, which he will be taking. He could be going for a hard medium or a hard medium hard, going back to the hards that he started the race on. Whatever he goes for, I think this is definitely a good strategy for the drivers at the back of the grid. Going for that 2-stop usually works out, because now they're on the same amount of stops left as the rest of the drivers, but they have the fresher and softer compound of tires. So that's a very good strategy from Justin Dark. But Matteo going to the soft compound of tires, that's Questionable strategy there from the ET8 driver. He's also in a similar position to FVR Justin. He knows his teammates up there in the podium positions, and he'll want to be getting up there to possibly assist his teammate, although he's got quite a while to go. He's currently down in last place, but on the soft compound tires, he should be able to gain a few positions, but long term, I don't think this strategy is going to go particularly well for the ET8 driver. Sanchowitz is actually the only driver in the grid to start on the medium compound of tires, so obviously he wanted to get a good race start in an attempt to gain some positions, but as of right now he hasn't been able to gain positions apart from the ones he got from the drivers who boxed, and obviously G League Carhams, who also DNF'd. But as of right now, he's on the medium, so he's on a similar strategy as well to FVR Justin and VIR Dark. So hopefully those medium compound tire runners can move their way up the field and get some decent points in this race, as everyone's got one stop to go. Our Mateo actually comes into the pit lane, so he's decided maybe the soft compound tires aren't the right tire to be on. Let's see what tires he actually goes on to, and I think I know exactly what he's done. He's gone from hard, soft to hard, and now he'll be trying to take these hards to the end of the Grand Prix. So that's also one strategy you can use at the start of the race. So using the hards for the entire Grand Prix and making one pit stop under safety car just to get those two required tire compounds in. So our Mateo, he's at the back of the grid, but he has got 0 stops left to make, and if there's another safety car that comes out, he can go straight to the medium compound tires anyway. So our Mateo, he's on a very flexible strategy here, and hopefully this can prove dividends for him, and he can get a good result for his team along with M Slash. So very interesting strategies unfolding at the back of the grid. Hopefully it provides for some drama later on in the Grand Prix, but as of right now, it's still the top 3, the top 4 even, as it was before the race start. Talent Factory Keen in P1, closely followed by the McLaren FVR driver of Stefano. Slash for the ET8 team is onto the podium positions, and Jerry Van Bussel will be looking to overtake them to get close to his teammate and support him in the battle for the win in this Grand Prix, and possibly even get another Talent Factory 1-2. But seeing as the pace that Stefano and Slash have, I should say, it's looking unlikely, because they are looking very, very good today. But the safety car will be now coming in this lap, and Talent Factory Kian will be leading us away for the safety car restart. FVR Stefano, it's now his job to try and predict the jump from Kian, in hopes of possibly making a move on lap 4, the safety car restart. So we will hopefully get some more racing underway, as this will be our first full lap of racing now. Talent Factory Kian really slowing the grid down, making sure the safety car has time to get back to the pit lane. He's now gone for a start out of the double left-hander. You can see Stefano got caught out, and by quite a bit, because he was exiting a turn, which means he had quite a bit of wheel spin. So that's a good start there from Talent Factory Kian. It's allowed him to pull away from Stefano. M Slash has also lost a lot of time to Stefano. He's 1.1 seconds away, so he's not going to have DRS at this stage. He's gone wide out of turn number 1. This could allow Jerry Van Bussel to go on the offensive. M Slash has been a terrible restart for the ET8 driver. Jerry Van Bussel now, he looks to the inside line into turn number 5, and he's braking nice and late. M Slash, he tries his best to hold it around the outside, but at the end of the day has to concede the position to the Talent Factory driver, who's now trying to break the slipstream to the ET8 driver, making his one defensive move and coming back to the racing line. FVR Stefano is quite close to the back of Talent Factory Kia now, so even after not getting the best of restarts, he is still nice and close to our race leader. And Rudy Hullet is also close to the back of Edrex, trying to make some moves in the midfield, as we're now seeing Tebow battle it out with QRT Ryan as he forces Ryan off of the circuit there on the exit of turn number 7. They'll be side by side as they engage in a drag race down this straight into turn number 9. Who will be the last of the late breakers? You can see QRT Ryan tries to break as late as he possibly can, and it could be a good defense here from Tebow as he attempts to hold it around the outside turn number 9. He could make this defense stick. QRT Ryan goes deep into that turn, going off of the circuit. They're still side by side. They head through the double left-hander. QRT Ryan not leaving him an inch of space there on the exit, and he gets the move done. Some very, very tough racing between G League and QRT Academy, but At the end of the day, it's QRT Ryan who's gotten up into P14 as he goes a little bit wide out of the final turn of the circuit. So great racing there from the two of them, although getting their elbows out and by quite a bit, forcing each other off the circuit quite a few times there. But you can see, as of right now, no one particularly close to one another. Rudy Hullett is quite close to the back of Edrex, though, as he comes out of turn number 5, trying to get a good exit. The DRS is not yet enabled. It will be enabled on lap 6, and that is hopefully when we see some more moves happen. But we will see quite a big DRS train from P13 all the way up to P3 and possibly even P1 if Jerry Van Bussel can get a move on now and get into the DRS of the FER driver ahead of him. And that DRS will be crucial because he needs it to be able to defend from slash behind. If he doesn't have that DRS, he'll be quite vulnerable. We're now seeing Sanchowitz and QRT Ryan actually battling with one another. That's not what you want to see, as they need to be working together to try and catch up to the top 13, because Sanchowitz is outside of the DRS of NLR Lewis, and the DRS is about to be enabled. So the two Aston Martins need to push on now through this middle sector to catch up to the NLR driver, who's right now having a bad day. He's not doing too well down in P13. Struggling to keep up with the VIR driver of Skyline, which is not a good sign from the NLR driver. Meanwhile, his teammate stuck in traffic with the likes of Team Mentalism's Edrex ahead of him. Jerry Van Bussel, as he comes out of turn number 1 and 2, he's now within the DRS of the top 2. 7/10 separate himself and FEI Stefano, so he will have a reasonable defense up against Slash as they head out of turn number 5. FEI Stefano, though, he's playing the long game. He's still got 50% ERS left, as we now see QRT Ryan. He's retired from the session on the exit of turn number 3, and that has now brought out the safety car once again. 2 safety cars in a row and in quick succession, but it's the same place where he's come off. I think he might be blocking the pit lane exit, and that's why the safety car has been triggered. But looks like G. Lee Carhams isn't the only one who has struggled through turn number 2 and 3. QRT Ryan now loses a wheel and is out of this Grand Prix. The second retirement of the race on lap 6 of 29. And now that we're a little bit later into the Grand Prix, could we possibly see some split strategies here? We already saw 3 drivers come into the pit lane at the start of the race. Will we now see a couple more come in now that the tires are a little bit more worn and don't have the pace that they did 5 laps ago? Well, let's see. Tom Factory Keen, he's coming out of the final few turns now. Is he going to pull to the right hand side and into the pit lane? The answer is no. He stays out. FER Stefano following suit. No one wants to take a risky move in these top few positions apart from NLR Rudy Hullett, who will be taking that risk as he pulls into the pit lane. Sanchowitz and FER Justin follow him in. And those will be the 3 drivers boxing under safety car conditions. So Sanchowitz and Justin, they both boxed under the first safety car for medium compound tires. They're now going to box back onto the hards that they started the race on, and they will take those to the end of the Grand Prix. So Sanchowitz and FER Justin have no more stops to make. Meanwhile, NLR Rudy Hullett will be going for a 2-stop strategy. Not sure if that's the right play because he's lost a lot of track position, falls all the way down from P9 to what is now P16. And if he wants to make this strategy work, he's got to overtake all the drivers ahead of him, get back into the top 9 and then some to actually make this 2-stop strategy work. So NLR Rudy Hullett, it's a very risky strategy, but we'll have to see, does he have the pace to make those moves? He's got the tires, and he's just got to have the racecraft, have the knowledge to know when to make the moves and where to make them. And if he can do that and hopefully get himself back into the top 10, this strategy could definitely work out for the NLR driver. But as of right now, it does look like quite a big risk to take, especially when you're running in a top 9 position, and obviously, you're not beating your rivals, but even with this strategy, it seems very unlikely that he will be able to catch up to FER Stefano. So, Rudy Hullett going with the high risk, high reward strategy, as someone mentioning in chat there. And let's see, will he be able to reap the rewards of these medium compound tires? Time will tell, as it tells us all. Lap 7 of 29 now, and the safety car, I assume, will be coming in at the end of lap 8. And we really haven't had many laps of racing, although we've seen some good moves. But what we have seen is that the DRS train is absolutely brutal at this circuit, and yeah, it's sorry, getting thrown off there. Rudy Hullet on the medium compound tires. We saw quite the big DRS train in the race conditions, is what I was trying to mention. And yeah, not many drivers actually able to make the moves on the hard compound of tires. So we might see that once again where drivers just can't make that moves because the DRS is quite powerful, so drivers not able to get ahead of one another. But also the hard compound tires, no one really wants to push on them because they all understand that once you get onto those medium compound tires, that is when you're going to be deciding your position. Whatever positions you have right now, they can be taken away from you quite easily on during the pit stops. So it's the medium compound tires, that's when you know what you're battling for is your final finishing position, and you can be certain that if you're P5 on the medium compound tires, that's where you will be at the end of the Grand Prix, so long as you can defend from the drivers behind. So right now, if we take a look at the pit stops here and remind ourselves of the strategies of all the drivers. Mateo, so obviously all the top 13, they've made 0 stops. They've got one more stop to make, and that will be to medium compound of tire. Mateo, he's made 2 stops, and he has got 0 stops to make. He will be taking these hard compound tires for 28 laps of 29, excluding the 1 lap that he did on soft compound tires to get the 2 required tire compounds in. We have VIR Dark, who is on the medium compound tires, so he is on a 2-stop strategy. Rudy Hullet also on a 2-stop strategy. Sanchowitz is onto the hard compound tires. He's going similar to Mateo, I think. And, or no, he boxed from mediums. He started on mediums. He's now on hards, which he will be taking to the end of the race. And FER Justin doing the same as Mateo. He's got 0 stops to make. So Sanchowitz, Mateo, and FER Justin all with 0 stops to make. So keep an eye on those 3 drivers as they could be doing quite decently and find themselves in a good finishing position come the end of the Grand Prix. But once again now, we are getting ready for yet another safety car restart, and yet again, it's led by Talent Factory Keane. Is he going to go in the same spot? If he is, FER Justin, or FER Stefano, I should say, will be more acute. You can see setting up his line coming out of here, making sure that Talent Factory Keane doesn't catch him out a second time, and he does get a pretty decent exit now out of that turn, and this time Keane hasn't caught him out as much as he probably would have liked to, as you can see we are now under safety or green flag conditions. We're seeing QRT Twist into turn number 1, having to defend from OP Tim, who's currently P6 behind the Alpine driver. M Slash going a little bit deep into that first turn, and that's compromised his exit slightly as QRT Twist has to lift off the throttle. Slash loses the car out of that third turn now, and trying to catch up to him here, and he's now at the very back of the grid as he tries to get it back onto the circuit. Has he lost his front wing because of that? I think the answer is no, as we just see his car come through. He's got both of his end plates, so his front wing is intact. The only problem is he is now all the way down in P18. So that's such a shame to see. The ETA driver was trying to get a podium position in this race. We're seeing NLR Rudy Hullet try to go to the inside line into turn number 6. Mateo taking evasive action, and Rudy Hullet going for the switchback maneuver out of turn number 7. It's a double overtake on VIR Dark and Mateo there. That is a beautiful move from the medium compound tire runner to get himself up into P13. Sanchowitz is now on the inside line of VIR Dark as they head through turn number 9. Sanchowitz gets the better exit than the Mercedes driver, but with the power of the medium compound tires, he's going to try to hold his line to the inside, and Sanchowitz concedes that position for now. The VIR Mercedes driver up into P14, and a Hamilton-esque move there from NLR Rudy Hullet to boost himself up into P13. Now his sights are set on GD Thibault, which he'll be overtaking pretty much instantly as he makes a mistake out of the final turn. NLR Rudy Hullet making moves like they're absolutely nothing. He's into the top 12 now, and he's got Skyline now in his sights, who's currently on the back of his teammate NLR Lewis. So hopefully Rudy Hullet can get ahead and assist his debutant teammate as they head through turn number 5. It's quite deep into there, trying to avoid VIR Skyline. It's another driver making a mistake on the exit of a turn, this time of turn number 5, and Rudy Hullet, it seems the pressure that he's applying is really getting to the drivers. They just cannot contend with this man who's made about 4 moves in the last 2 laps. He's now got to overtake his teammate. He goes for the switchback move just as he did on the previous lap, and his teammate is going to let him coming through, and already NLR Rudy Hullet in the space of just 2 laps is up into P10, 1 position away from where he would have been if he didn't box. So this is a brilliant strategy that he's taken here, and he's gone aggressive, and it's worked out because he's played it perfectly. He's making moves where he needs to make them, and now he will be back on the back of Agent Tajin as they head into lap number 11. But Rudy Hullet is currently the man on fire right now as Agent Tajin makes a mistake through the double left-hander, and yet another position for Rudy Hullet. He's up into P9 ahead of the Alfa Romeo driver. This is absolutely brilliant to see from Rudy Hullet. Whenever he gets behind a driver, they instantly make a mistake, cracking under the pressure from seeing the Red Bull of Rudy Hullet in their rear view mirrors. And just to top it off, Rudy Hullet has the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. This is the man to watch right now, and will we see another move from him as another driver ahead of him makes a mistake? This time it's QRT Gelram going wide on the exit of turn number 3, but it's NLR Lewis, Rudy Hullet's teammate, who's made a mistake coming through turn number 3. He's kept it on track, but sadly he's dropped down to P16 now, so it seems like Rudy Hullet will be flying the flag for Red Bull as he makes the move on QRT Gelram on the exit of turn number 9. And into turn number 6, he is in to P8 with his red light flashing. He's very low on the ERS, but it's another one for Rudy Hullet. I can't even keep up with the amount of moves that he's made now. I think that's about 9 moves that the NLR driver has made in the last 3 laps. So Rudy Hullet is in P8 on the medium compound tires, flying through the drivers and cutting through them like a hot knife through butter. Edrex makes a mistake on the exit of turn number 9. They're getting up on the curb and probably getting a track limits warning there. You can see the speed that Rudy Hullet has relative to the hard compound tires runners. He's got so much more pace than these guys as they head through the double left-hander. He's able to carry that momentum relative to Edrex, and now they're going to head into the final turn of the lap time. And Rudy Hullet is nice and close to the back of the Alfa Romeo. He senses a move coming on, possibly into turn number 1. Is he going to brake late enough to commit to this one? Yes, he is. Edrex concedes the position, and now NLR Rudy Hullet is into the top 7. He's on the back of the 2 OP drivers. This is absolutely brilliant racing from Rudy Hullet, and I'm absolutely speechless from this man's performance. I just, wow. NLR Rudy Hullet from P16 to P7 now. And now he's on the back of OP Benza. Is he going to make yet another move? This time on the OP drivers. And wow, he's just overtaking Edrex there. This is amazing, amazing racing from Rudy Hullet. And if he keeps going at this rate, it looks like he might be able to get himself onto the podium. Now he's onto the back of OP Benza out of turn number 7. He's quite low on the ERS though. So you will be struggling to catch up in a straight line, but as Rudy Hullet catches up to the 2 OP drivers, OP Tim has now lost the DRS to QRT Twist, so OP will be vulnerable to NLR Rudy Hullet, and this could allow him to make yet another 2 moves, this time on the likes of Benza and Tim into the final sector of the lap time. NLR Rudy Hullet is all over the back of Benza as they head through the double left-hander. You can see just 2 tenths separating as they head into the penultimate turn, and now the final turn. Will he make another move into turn 1? I think he's going to wait for a little bit longer as he has a slight lockup through that final turn, but you really cannot keep your eyes off of this man as it seems like he's providing all the racing action in this Grand Prix. It's a mistake from OP Benza out of turn 1. Once again, drivers making mistakes when they see Rudy Hullet come up behind them, and he's going to creep up behind him into turn number 5. Is he going to send it into this turn? Down the inside goes Rudy Hullet. OP Benza tries to go for the switchback move, but he's got absolutely no defense against the flying Finn. Rudy Hullet is up into P6. Can Benza fight back though? Maybe he has got a defense as he has the better exit. Rudy Hullet defending the inside line quite aggressively, and OP Benza decides it's not worth fighting this one for now. Or does he? Because he's going to go for a switchback maneuver, try to get the better exit once again. Rudy Hullet is really struggling in a straight line with the low ERS, but OP Benza makes a mistake out of turn number 7. That allows Rudy Hullet to pull away, but Rudy Hullet is now into the top 6. He's gained 10 positions in less than 5 laps, and you're really not going to see this often. 6-lap fresher tires and the softer compounded tires. He is onto the back of OP Tim, still low on that ERS, which means he's struggling in a straight line, but OP Tim going wide through that double left-hander. That could see him get a track limits warning, and get 3 of those and you will see yourself getting a 3-second time penalty. NLR Rudy Hullet now through the final turn of the lap time, and He's going to try save up some ERS now because he really needs that to defend from the likes of OP Benza, who's actually struggling quite a bit to keep up with the Red Bull drivers. They head through turn number 1. He does make a mistake on that particular exit, and that is going to cost him a tenth or two to really hull it. And you don't want to be losing time to really hull it, because if you do, you're going to lose that DRS, because absolutely no one can keep up with this man right now. And the DRS train currently goes all the way from P1 to P16, with Agent just about getting into the DRS, and his teammate Airtrex just about missing out on the DRS of OP Benza. So Team Ventism struggling to keep into the DRS of the drivers ahead of him. But let's see now Rudy Hullett as he heads out of turn number 7. He's got OP Benz up 5/10 behind him, so a comfortable gap to the AlphaTauri behind. He's now got to focus on the AlphaTauri in front as he finds himself in an OP sandwich. Is this where his progress finally stops? Because he surely can't keep making moves like this. FVR Justin, though, on the other hand, is going to be making a move through turn number 9. But that's Rudy Hullett, who's made a mistake through turn number 9 and now 10. And he loses all the positions that he had just gained. He falls down to P10 after being in P6. He was just pushing too hard. He's also completely lost his front wing. So he must have had a collision with the wall on the exit of turn number 9, possibly got up on the curb just a little bit too much, and he's now going to have to come into the pit lane and get that repaired. And let's see what tires he comes onto, but that's such a shame. NLR Rudy Hullett, and I guess the bad luck finally caught up to him as he was just making move after move after move. He now comes in for a front wing change. He's going to lose a lot of time because of this, but he still has a chance in this Grand Prix. He's now got 0 stops left to make. Everyone ahead of him has still got a stop to make, with a few exceptions in the grid. But Rudy Hullett is now down into P17. He's got Armateo right behind him, and now his job is to focus, put the head down and push in the clean air, try and gain as much time as possible to the guys ahead. And if he can show the pace that he was showing just a few laps ago, he's got every chance of breaking back into that top 6 and possibly even into the podium positions. But he's got to keep the pace up now, and I'm sure everyone will be rooting for Rudy Hullett, because so far he's been very likable in this race, putting on a brilliant performance. But he's now under pressure from Armateo, who goes the inside line into turn number 6, and Rudy Hullett gets swiftly overtaken by Mateo. He's going to need to get ahead of him now if he wants to gain time in the clean air that he once had before the ET8 driver overtook him. We're now seeing a battle unfold in the midfield as G-League Debo is on the back of one of the drivers, but it's OP Benza who's actually made a mistake at the spin for the AlphaTauri driver and forced him to come into the pit lane after that. And you can see a lot of position change. I'm not too sure what's going on right now, but OP Benza, I know for a fact he has made a mistake. Edrex comes into the pit lane. Jerry Van Bussel and FVR Stefano also into the pit lane. Stefano will be going for the undercut strategy on the likes of Talent Factory Kean, and Jerry Van Bussel will be going with that strategy as well, making sure that at least one Talent Factory driver can keep pressure on the FVR driver. But yeah, they have come into the pit lane along with Edrex and OP Benza, although OP Benza will be a little bit further behind than he maybe would have liked. Where does he come out relative to Mateo and Rudy Hullett? They're currently heading through turn 3 and now into turn number 5. That's a mistake from OP Tim. So both OP drivers consecutively making mistakes. He bashes into the wall there on the exit of turn number 6. He must have made a big mistake to get hit into that wall. He's now struggling to get his car back underway, and is this possibly, I think this might be an issue with his wheel or pedals as he is trying to get his car back underway. Are his pedals finally working? I'm not too sure what's happened, but nevertheless, he's completely lost his front wing. He's obviously struggling with his equipment as of right now, and OP Tim falls all the way down to P18, but he finally gets himself back underway, and yeah, I think it's a disconnected wheel. Someone in the chat mentioning it there. I think it might be because his car was kind of driving like an AI, allowing everyone else to go through before finally getting itself back onto circuit. So I think OP Tim might have had a wheel disconnect there, which caused his AI to go straight into the barrier, or it caused him to go into the barrier, and then his AI took over. That's such a shame, but OP, both drivers, misfortune strikes, and Yeah, OP, after having a bad result in Saudi Arabia, it's looking like it might happen again as OP Tim gets a 3-second time penalty just to add salt to injury. But now let's try refocus ourselves and actually figure out what's going on with the strategy, because we're seeing plenty of mistakes while the strategy actually unfolds. Talent Factory Kian is in P6 and the net race lead, with FVR Stefano 2.3 seconds behind. So, yeah, he's obviously not been able to make that undercut work, possibly because of the traffic that he's had to deal with. You can see how much faster he is than NLR Lewis, who gets out of the way there on the exit of turn number 6. Doesn't want to intrude on this battle. FVR Stefano getting a nice dose of DRS down this straight, but FVR, our Talent Factory Jerry Van Bussel, will be going to the inside line. He gets squeezed so tight to that apex there by FVR Stefano, but he still completes the move up into P7. It's a Talent Factory net 1-2. Talent Factory, can they do it once again and score a maximum points in a race weekend? It's every chance that they could. They got the 1 point for the pole position set by Talent Factory Kian. And now they could possibly get the points for position 1 and position 2. But there's a lot going on this race. I'm just trying to wrap my head around what's going on, because we've been seeing so much action lately. Currently, FVR Justin, who's on 0 stops left, and Sanchowitz, who's also made all of his stops, they are 6.2 seconds out in front. FVR Stefano, though, with a 3-second time penalty. So, Talent Factory Keen, he's got to push on now. 6.2 seconds to the top 2. He needs to overtake Sanchowitz if he wants to win this Grand Prix. And he just needs to be within 3 seconds of FVR Justin. He's got 11 laps now to catch up to the top 2. Meanwhile, his teammate is 2.3 seconds behind, dealing with pressure from FVR Stefano, who got himself a 3-second time penalty. So FVR Stefano, that 3-second time penalty is going to cost him a position or 2. And also, it now means he's not going to be able to overtake Jerry Van Bussel and keep the position. So now his best play is just to stay within the DRS of the Ferrari driver. It's such a shame to see, but both FVR drivers now have 3-second time penalties. QRT Twist is in this little DRS train with Jerry Van Bussel and FVR Stefano. So on for a possible podium today is QRT Twist, which will be the second in a row. And someone actually mentioning there that it might not be 3 seconds. No, it's 5 seconds for FVR Stefano. I'm not too sure what that's for. I think that might have been someone saying it's for ignoring yellow flags. It could definitely possibly have been. He might have been making a move through turn 6 and 7 when Tim crashed out. Could also be speeding in the pit lane, although I don't think it is that. So yeah, it might have been overtaking illegally under yellow flags, but nevertheless, he's got himself a 5-second time penalty. If it is for overtaking under yellow flags, I'm sure he can get that removed, as he probably couldn't predict that OP Tim was going to crash out as he was making a move. We're now seeing Edrex make the move on NLR Lewis into P7 ahead of him. And NLR Lewis is currently on the hard compounded tires. 18 laps old are the hards that NLR Lewis is currently on. So I'm not too sure what his strategy actually is here. He's going for quite the overcut. And he's obviously still got 1 stop to make. He hasn't not made a single stop in this race so far. As you see, OP Tim set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. So he's obviously gotten a wrap on his connection issues, but he's still down in P18 by 30 seconds behind Slash, so I don't think he'll be getting much from this Grand Prix, unless of course there is a late race safety car, which is entirely possible. NLR Lewis is 18 lap old medium compound tires. Not too sure what his strategy. He's going to have to come in eventually, maybe going for a hard soft strategy, which I don't think would be ideal. I think he's going to see himself finishing down in P17 because all the drivers behind him are so close to him. So NLR Lewis, he's not been having a good day so far, and it looks like his troubles will continue. We're now seeing QRT Gel Ram on the back of the hard compound tire runner, and he should be able to make swift work of him now. He's only 2 tenths behind, and Lewis is also below 10% ERS, and you can see NLR Lewis really struggling on the exit of turn number 1. QRT Gel Ram just has so much more grip through turn number 3, and I think he will be trying to go for a move into turn number 5. No, not using any of his ERS just yet, so he is going to be a little bit more patient, wait for the DRS zone, but you can see NLR Lewis not able to carry any apex speed at all. So QRT Gel Ram finally out of the turn number 5 gets the move done with the assistance of DRS and ERS, making sure that No troubles are caused by the NLR driver. And speaking of NLR Rudy Hullet currently down in P15. So ever since losing his front wing, he just was not able to recover from that. It's been behind our Mateo ever since. So yeah, Rudy Hullet, such a shame to see. He was on fire for the few laps that we were on board with him, but now he is currently in P14 as he does make a move on our Mateo up into the 14th position and 1.5 seconds behind OP Benza, who's in P13. Such a shame, and OP will be scoring 0 points in this Grand Prix as OP Benza in P13, OP Tim in P18, and you can see Benza, big mistake out of the double left-hander. Commentators curse for OP Benza. He crashes out of the session and causes a full course safety car now. Safety car is released from the pit lane, and OP have had one retirement, and OP Tim is in dead last and with a time penalty. So OP having a horrid day, and this is not what they need, especially when they're over 30 points behind in the championship. So OP Benza out of the Grand Prix, third retirement of the race, and we're now going to see who comes into the pit lane. NLR Lewis. This is absolutely perfect for NLR Lewis, as the safety car means he can come into the pit lane without losing too much track position, and also being within the DRS of the rest of the drivers. So perfect strategy for Lewis now, as obviously was just banking on a safety car because he wasn't going to get points if he didn't. Now he's banked on the safety car. He's in P15. He's got a chance to battle possibly for some points in this Grand Prix. So good play there from NLR Lewis, going for just a long-term strategy in the hopes that something would work out for him, and it has. Our Mateo has also come into the pit lane now for the fresh medium compound tires. So he's got a couple of fresher tires than everyone else, and obviously if you're at the back of the grid, it's probably best to box for some fresh tires because you're not going to be losing any track position anyways. OP Tim comes out of the pit lane. You can see he has got 3 seconds of time penalties for extending the track limits. FVR, Justin and Sanchowitz will obviously come into the pit lane now because they're on 16-lap-old hard compound tires. That will not be ideal when you're battling against medium compound tire runners. And I assume they might be coming in for the soft compound tires. FVR Justin goes on to the mediums. Meanwhile, Sanchowitz goes on to the mediums as well. And he also has to repair his front wing. So must have gotten front wing damage at some point. Maybe that's why he was losing a little bit of time to FVR Stefano when he was P1 and P2 with him. So he's now in for the medium compound tires. Slash comes into the pit lane for the mediums. FVR Justin in for the mediums. But a lot of people actually deciding to stay out of the pit lane, including Rudy Hullet. And that would probably be because he has no more medium compound tires left. Sanchowitz gets a 5-second time penalty for crossing the white line on the pit lane exit. That's a rookie error there from Sanchowitz. If you do that twice, you get yourself a 5-second time penalty. So we obviously already did it once. And now he has done it a second time and got a 5-second time penalty because of it. Actually quite surprised that no one has gone for the soft compound tires, as VIR Dark has made a mistake and he's actually spun the car possibly, or maybe was just slowing down not to overtake Rudy Hullet. Not sure what's happened there, but his car was sideways. Nevertheless, I don't think he's actually lost any track position because of that, because Rudy Hullet was already P11. But yeah, very surprised that the softs have not come on to any of the cars at all, even if it is a bit of a riskier strategy. I know the soft compound tires only last about 6 laps or so. But with only 7 laps of actual racing to go, and that is if the safety car comes in this pit lane, it'll actually be 6 laps of racing to go. So yeah, very interesting indeed that no one has come in for the softs, and that definitely would have helped them because the softs are much faster than the mediums and would be perfect for a short stint like this. But everyone is on the mediums, deciding that the soft compound tires aren't a very good race tire and that the mediums are the preferred option. But now let's take a look at the grid as we see it now. Talent Factory Kean is in P1 with his teammate Talent Factory Jerry Van Bussel in P2. Currently a Talent Factory P1 and P2, as we've seen many times before in this competition. FVR Stefano was in P3, but he's got himself 3 seconds of time penalties, or 5 seconds of time penalties I should say, which If he did get that for overtaking under yellow flags, there's a possibility that he might get it removed, but we have to assume that he will be keeping it after the end of the Grand Prix, because I really don't know. QRT Twist is in P4, and once that 5-second time penalty is applied, he will be onto the podium positions for the second week in a row. So QRT Twist showing absolutely brilliant form in this competitive team championship, and scoring big points for QRT, and it looks like QRT will be overtaking NLR in the standings in the competition if everything stays as it is. Edrex in P5 and doing quite nicely for Team Mentism. It's QRT Gelram in P6. VIR Skyline is in P7, and that's quite surprising to see. VIR have been struggling majorly in this Grand Prix. Everyone's been outside of the, both the VIR drivers, I should say, have been outside of the top 10, but now they've got VIR Skyline in P7. I don't know how he's achieved that, but brilliant job from him. Could score some decent points for his team now. G-League Thebo is also up there in P8. He'll be able to score some points for G-League after obviously G-League Carham's DNF from the session on lap 1 of 29. Asian Tashan is in P9, and FVR Justin rounds out the top 10, but obviously that time penalty will drop him outside the top 10, and also he's got Rudy Hullet in his rear mirrors, so we saw what happened last time on a safety car restart when Rudy Hullet was on the medium compound tires. Let's see if it can happen again. We're on lap 23 of 29. Tam Factory Kia will be leading us away for this safety car restart, and Jerry Van Bussel is right behind him, gunning the rear and making sure that FVR Stefano doesn't get anywhere close to his teammate on this safety car restart. This will be very coordinated from the two, because Jerry Van Bussel knows exactly when his teammate is going to go, although Keane actually caught out Jerry Van Bussel there, so he decided to slow down. So I think they're both now prepared, and as you can see, getting in sync with each other so that neither of them lose out on the safety car restart. But this also means that FVR Stefano didn't really lose at all on the safety car restart. In fact, he actually gained to Jerry Van Bussel, so I could even make the move on Jerry Van Bussel. He's very close to the back of the Ferrari driver using the slipstream, and now he's going to be using his ERS. I'm sure everyone will be depleting the ERS. As a very late move under braking for Jerry Van Bussel, who went to the inside and then back to the outside. FVR Stefano reacts to the odd defense from Jerry Van Bussel, gets a better exit out of turn number 5, squeezes them to the outside line, and now Stefano is up into P2. Jerry Van Bussel, he's going to send it to the inside line into turn number 6. FVR Stefano, though, he could possibly hold this around the outside, but no, it's a brilliant switchback maneuver for Jerry Van Bussel there to get himself back ahead of the McLaren driver. QRT Twist is in the midst and trying to get himself in the mix now. With the top 3, FVR Stefano once again, he's looking for a move, this time to the outside line. He is going to go for a switchback move, but Jerry Van Bussel parks it on the apex there, and FVR Stefano, there's no way through for the McLaren driver. Edrex in P5 behind all these guys, and this battling between Jerry Van Bussel and Stefano is allowing Talent Factory Keen to pull away, so Jerry Van Bussel is going to be quite defenseless now without that DRS, and yeah, that's going to cause some big struggles. But obviously FVR Stefano has a time penalty that could possibly get removed, and if it does, then Jerry Van Bussel is under big pressure, because Stefano could be gunning for the P2 in this Grand Prix, and he has definitely got the pace to do so. As of right now, no one really too close to each other, and the DRS is not yet enabled, so drivers are not making moves just yet. They'll be waiting for a little bit longer before they have that power of DRS, and then they might be depleting their ERS. Meanwhile, we're seeing a move between Armateo and NLR Lewis. Armateo getting ahead of the Red Bull driver. FVR Justin is battling away with G-League Debo. He makes a move on the straight with the power of his ERS and slipstream. He's now up into P8 as G-League Debo braking very late there into turn number 6, almost hitting into the back end of FVR Justin, but just about keeping it onto the racing line and out of the gearbox of FVR Justin. So close now between all the drivers who are tightly compacted between each other. But you can see it's deep for QRT Twist as he heads into turn number 9. That's going to compromise him slightly as Edrex is all over the back of him. He's really close to making a move, but through this third sector he's not going to see too many opportunities arising. Through the double left-hander, he needs a good exit through these couple of turns. He could look for a move into turn number 1. QRT Twist losing a little bit of time now to the drivers ahead of him, that being FVR Stefano and Jerry Van Bussel. Race control now confirming that they have the DRS enabled, so that will hopefully help the drivers make their moves. But if everyone has a DRS, then no one is really gaining an advantage. It's another mistake there for QRT Twist, who goes wide through turn number 1. NLR Lewis has actually come into the pit lane and retired from the session, so you never like to see a driver come into the pits and retire, but obviously just thought that he wasn't going to be getting much from this Grand Prix, and wasn't willing to continue for the final 3 laps of the race, so NLR Lewis is out of this Grand Prix. Meanwhile, we're seeing QRT Gelram very close to the back of Edgerex. He's trying to put pressure onto the Alfa Romeo so he can get a little bit closer to his teammate Twist, and if they can be in P4 and P5, maybe they can work together and launch an attack on FVR Stefano. Edgerex now on the back of Twist. He's been there for quite a while, but he hasn't been able to make a move just yet. Meanwhile, one man who is trying to make a move is FVR Justin. Had a look to the outside line there, but he's going to try and go for the better exit, and a bit of a switchback move for FVR Justin here as he allows VII Skyline to go through, who then defends the inside line. FVR Justin was not expecting that, and FVR Justin just smashes into the back of VII Skyline and loses his front wing because of that. So yeah, FVR Justin simply just not predicting that Skyline would have seen that coming, and that Justin loses his front wing because of that. He's now going to be overtaken by G-League Thebo, and yeah, with Justin also having a time penalty, he is not going to be scoring any points in this Grand Prix. And the same could be said for NLR, because they have one driver out of the race, and NLR Rudy Hullett in P12, who hasn't been able to make any moves. Meanwhile, Armateo is looking to the inside line of Asian Tajin into turn number 5, and Asian Tajin gets hit from the rear. Who was that by? That could have been by OP Tim, who was trying to go for the move on Rudy Hullett, which he successfully got finished. So that might have been OP Tim hitting the back of Asian Tajin, and if it was, that could be another time penalty for OP Tim, although it wouldn't really affect him because it's not looking like he will be getting any points in this Grand Prix. He's on the edge of that top 10, but that time penalty will cost him. That 3 seconds will drop him right back behind Rudy Hull. We're seeing a battle for the top 2. It's FVR Stefano versus Jerry Van Bussel out of turn number 9. FVR Stefano being forced off of the circuit. Jerry Van Bussel, though, he's still battling with him, and FVR Stefano gets ahead of Jerry Van Bussel. He's up into P2 now, and it was only so long that Jerry Van Bussel could hold that position without the power of DRS. Finally, FVR Stefano finds himself ahead of the Talent Factory driver, and chances are he could be on for a podium now, is the FVR driver. He's gotten a few podiums before in this competition. He's looking to get another for FVR and extend FVR's lead over NLR, as NLR won't be scoring any points. Meanwhile, FVR have 2 drivers in the points paying positions, one of which is on the podium. So great stuff from FVR. They're really proving themselves to be a top 3 team. This is their first season in the competition, and they've displaced NLR to get themselves into a top 3 position. But they're not the only ones who are trying to displace NLR, because QRT are currently P4 and P6 with QRT Gelram. He's now looking for the move on Edgerex as they head into turn number 6, trying to squeeze Edgerex to that inside line, who goes deep into turn number 6. This is going to allow Gelram to attempt a switchback maneuver. Does he get the better exit out of turn number 7? He has superior ERS levels. He's now going to use his ERS, and he does get ahead of MNT Edgerex, who has 0% ERS down this run into turn number 9. QRT Gelram finds himself in the top 5 now, and it looks like QRT will be scoring the second most amount of points out of any teams, followed obviously with first place being Talent Factory, who currently find themselves with a double podium. Talent Factory Kean 4 seconds ahead of P2, being FVR Stefano. Kean has drove a brilliant Grand Prix so far. He's continuing to show that great pace in the Ferrari. But QRT Gelram is now up into P5 and ahead of Edgerex. That means QRT in P4 and P5. Once again, it's going to be a double P5 finish for QRT, so long as they can keep this up. Although QRT Twist is wide into turn number 1. He's really been struggling through there. Just carries a bit too much speed, and forces him to go out onto the Astro, which definitely does lose him a little bit of time. But into turn number 5, you can see QRT Twist is 1.2 seconds behind Jerry Van Bussel, and this is the final lap of the Grand Prix. This is where the moves are made for the points positions. You can see Mateo trying to defend from OP Tim, which he successfully does. Meanwhile, Jerry Van Bussel is once again, he's going to try to get himself back into a top 2 position. FVR Stefano isn't going to go down without a fight. You can see contact between the two drivers. There's FVR Stefano forced to get off of the throttle as Jerry Van Bussel squeezing him on the apex of turn number 7, and Stefano loses that position to Talent Factory Jerry Van Bussel. We're now seeing the two QRT drivers battling side by sides through turn number 9. QRT Twist allowing his teammate Joe Ram to go through, but he makes a mistake and they're still going to be side by side. Eventually Twist gets himself back up into P4, but this is the man of the hour, Talent Factory Keane. After that last safety car restart in lap 24, he has absolutely flown away with this Grand Prix. Brilliant pace shown from the Talent Factory driver, who wins the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And Jerry Van Bussel completes the final turn to complete up Talent Factory 1-2. Yet another one in this season of CTC. And Talent Factory scoring an almost a maximum amount of points, with the exception of them not getting the fastest up of the Grand Prix, which goes to VIR Dirk. But it's another 1-2 for Talent Factory. QRT finished P3 and P4, which could end up being P4 and P5 if FVR Justin can get that time, or FVR Stefano, I should say, can get that time penalty removed. Edrex finishing into the top 5 there for Team Mentalism. A great result for himself and the team. And we're just waiting for VIR Dark and Sanchwitz finishing off their lap times, which they now do on the soft compound tires, attempting to set fast up the Grand Prix, which VIR Dark was successfully able to do. But there you go. That is the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. A brilliant race, not only from all the drivers, but especially Talent Factory, with Kian and Jerry Van Bussel finishing P1 and P2, something we're quite familiar with here in CTC. The two Ferraris in the top 2 positions. Obviously something that we don't see too often in real life. But there you go. There is your podium with that QRT Twist in P3. Whether that podium will actually be his or not too sure. I think Justin or Stefano, I keep getting the two mixed up. I think Stefano will actually be able to get that penalty removed, but only time will tell. But there you go. Something that is definite is Talent Factory in P1 and P2. A brilliant race though here in Abu Dhabi. CTC providing some great racing action, as it always does, and some really great stuff, all the way from Rudy Hullett making up about 10 positions in 3 laps to the battling that we saw at the end of the race between Jerry Van Bussel and FVR Stefano. But here are your final results. 1-2 for Talent Factory, QRT Twist in P3 and Jerry in P4, Edrex in P5, Skyline in P6 with Mateo in P7, who started P19, so a brilliant result to get himself up into a top 7 position. Thebo managing to get some points in P8. Stefano might get that time penalty removed and into P3. Justin, on the other hand, will be staying in P10 and getting just 1 point for FVR. Slash, who looks so good for most of the Grand Prix, he just made that mistake in the early few laps and fell down to P11. So sadly, that will be the end of, or he won't be getting any points in this race, but showed some great potential in this race, so every chance that he could possibly score some big points in the next one. But that has been your Abu Dhabi Grand Prix here in CTC. A brilliant race it was, and one that I thoroughly enjoyed, as I usually do in CTC. It's hard not to enjoy these races, especially with action like that. But that's enough from me. I have been your race commentator, More Games. I hope you all enjoyed this race, and until next time, which will be in 2 weeks because we have a break week next week before, and on that Thursday, the third stage of the season will actually be revealed on the CTC Twitter and in the Discord server too, obviously, so make sure to keep an eye out for that. But in 2 weeks time, I will see you for the next stage, which is yet to be revealed. But until then, it's goodbye from me.